Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Aesthetically Speaking podcast. My name is Tyler Terry and I'm your host. Today, I have a very special guest who happens to be one of my very good friends. Her name is Kaylee Lindholm. Kaylee is the founder of KLC Consulting. She is the host of the Fierce Factor podcast and also the founder of the Alt Experience. Kaylee, welcome to the show.
Aw, thank you, Tyler. Thank you for that shout out for Alt and all the things.
Oh my gosh, of course, I have to. It's amazing. I was looking at your podcast and you have 216 episodes and 122 five-star reviews.
Oh, wow. Look at you with the stats.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was looking, I'm like, 122, wow. Need to get some tips from Kaylee.
Yeah. Well, I'm mostly impressed with 216 episodes because you know what kind of dedication that takes to think of something to say and show up and say it every week. So
100%, 100%. Well, hey, welcome to the show. Thank you for your time and super excited to just dive in and, delve into your background and all of your experience. And my first question is just to tell us a little bit about yourself and share your story of how you transitioned from a device rep to owning your own business and starting your own brand.
Oh, thank you. I just first of all want to say, Tyler, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you in the industry, and I'm excited to talk with you kind of formally on a podcast today. I've been looking forward to this. We were introduced back, I think, in 2020 by Brandon James Thompson, so give him a shout out for that. Because I always appreciate, I think networkers in our industry or in general don't get enough credit because I think it's just such a gift to be able to connect people that come together to make impact. So
it's true, and that is a lost art. And Brandon, shout out to you because a lot of my networking I learned from the one and only Brandon. And if you know Brandon, you know exactly what Kaylee and I are saying.
Yes, absolutely. So my name's Kaylee Lindholm, and I'm the founder, as you mentioned, of KLC Consulting and our flagship program, the Pop Aesthetic Leadership Academy. Our mission is to help 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business this year. And we're really a company who has built a variety of different programming and tools and services and support to help aesthetic and wellness entrepreneurs build deeply satisfying, lucrative, freedom-based businesses that stand the test of time. And in terms of my background and how we got here today, I started KLC 8.5 years ago. After I came into the industry, I was recruited out of the diabetes industry to come and sell skincare, and then kind of worked my way up chasing the financial ladder, I would say, in on the corporate side, selling devices, and then becoming a sales director ultimately in corporate America for one of the industry's largest aesthetic medical device companies. And that ran its course about 8.5 years ago. I ultimately got to like this level where I think we get to that point where like chasing, climbing. And I kind of got there, and then I'm like, oh, this is it. And my quality of life was awful. And my husband's a VP of sales, and we were kind of both doing this, traveling, across the country. And I just wasn't that happy. I had young kids, and I'm like, there has to be more to this. And so I honestly just had always had that fire, this entrepreneurial spirit. I always knew I would have a business someday. I actually had 2 businesses when I was a kid. I did like gift wrapping was my first, I would wrap gifts for people was my first job.
I love that.
But anyway, I knew I would like leave corporate and do something. And at that point I thought, well, I live in Orange County and there's so much business here. And I have built such a network and my own sort of reputation in the industry that I could go and help people on my own. And so I kind of made it my goal. Like, I just want to earn my salary on my own. I want to be, but like show myself that I could do that. And that was sort of where I like printed my first business cards and said, "Hey, I'm available to help. Anybody want help growing their business?" And anyway, it sort of kind of took off from there. I think that my first client was another device company who heard I was a free agent and said, "Hey, why don't you come help us build the go-to-market strategy for one of our new devices?" And then through that experience, I met a young plastic surgeon in Newport Beach who said, "Listen, if you come work alongside me, we could be profit share partners." And I did. So I kind of got the experience of working on the manufacturer side and then in the practice. And then it was from there, I was with him for about 15 months. And then I'm like, okay, I got to figure out a way to scale this up and help a lot of people. And that's really where we launched the Academy.
That's amazing. One of my favorite things that you told me when we first met and how you are where you are is how practices absolutely loved working with you, and you could work with them for only a certain amount of time, and then you had to say goodbye, and they continued to reach out and would want to continue to work with you. Whereas now today you get to do that. You have a new client who you're helping grow their business, and you get to work with them every day, every month, for as many years as they're with you. That was really cool to hear.
Well, of course, I would tell you that people love working with me. I think
I've seen it firsthand. People really do love working with you. I mean, you're one of my favorite people in the industry. Seriously.
The context behind that, just to provide for the people who are like, who is this egomaniac here? The reason why can't you work with someone forever was the whole model switch for me, was being a consultant and coming in as someone who would help with specific projects to switching to becoming a coach for them and more of a strategic growth advisor that is focused on helping them learn the skills to be a great leader and find their own solutions to problems. And I think when you come in and fix something for someone, the problem goes away temporarily, but they don't learn and develop the skills on how to solve that problem on an ongoing basis. And so I think what's changed really is the way that I partner with aesthetic providers and entrepreneurs. And quite frankly, Tyler, building my own business and doing it on my own, I see this from a completely different lens than from when I was a rep and I saw what good was and what bad was. When you are building something from nothing from scratch and in an industry where there's real competition, right? You learn a lot and I can be a different kind of resource for them. And so I think that's why I get to spend more time with them now, is that there isn't a come in, do the project and leave. It's a true partnership.
That makes sense. So let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit and talk about branding. And it's something, in many of your episodes you talk about. And I know I've learned a lot from you in terms of branding from listening in and also being a part of some conversations. But, when you think of a med spa or any aesthetic practice, how does a brand relate to that? And what is so important about differentiating yourself and building that brand?
Yeah, well, I love this topic, Tyler, because I think it is actually one of the most misunderstood sort of kitschy terms, like building a brand, right? I think it's completely opposite of what most people want to do when they are looking to build a brand. And I kind of think of it like this, like if your entire ecosystem, everything around you, all the investments you make, the people that you bring in to support you, that you hire, the partnerships, everybody, right, is like a big spider web. And a lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to build this web and the brand is like just that one little piece. And it's actually the whole web, this like interconnected ecosystem of all of these components about who you are. So I think a brand in this industry, in any industry, is best described as really the emotional or the psychological connection that your customers have with your company. And I think that's why it's one of the most difficult sort of points in your business to master and like grasp, because it's so intangible in many ways. It's the act of shaping the perception of what someone thinks or feels about you, which is essential to compete in our industry, of course, and in any category. So how do you create an environment or this brand that people connect with and want to be a part of when it's so intangible? That's kind of the challenge behind building a brand. But I think it's critical, and I think that it's one of the most important pieces in building a distinctive company in an industry where there's so much sameness, as we would say.
Yeah. So when you're working with, you have many clients and every client is unique. What are some of the questions that you ask them when you first meet with them? You're sitting down, you're building their brand. What are some questions you ask them to decide what direction to take the brand?
I'll start by saying this. I think most brands are built wrong to begin with. One, let's start by what it's not. It's not your logo. It's not the visual components. Those are the things that people connect with to recognize that, oh, that feeling that I have, I see that. But that feeling that you get is through what happens inside internally. So, that meme that's like the iceberg, like the tip is kind of outside of the water, but then the bulk of all of it's underneath. That is what a brand is. All of it happens inside. It is who you actually are. And where I see a lot of people go wrong, one, especially in our industry, is it's very ego driven. So they think the brand is about me and who I am and what I stand, all of those things about look what I did. And so the first thing when I look at marketing is pitching, like so obsessed with their new device, so obsessed with the products and services or who they are in their photo shoots that all of their marketing and everything they put out to the world is about them and about what they offer. But think about a great brand, Tyler. Maybe I'll ask you, like, what's a brand that you really connect with?
Well, I like Rivian. Rivian, it's a truck I drive. I feel like I connect with the brand. I love what they stand for and how they're trying to preserve nature. And I love what the CEO stands for. Anyways, Rivian would be the brand.
Rivian. Okay, so great. So when you look at the Rivian logo, when I look at that logo, it means absolutely nothing to me. I would know nothing about that, right?
Yeah.
But the reason why it sounds like that you really resonate with that brand is what it makes you feel and how it serves you as a customer. So to answer your question, the first place that you start when you're building a brand, to me, a brand is so intimately connected to leadership. And I know this is going to sound, people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, here we go, this crazy girl. But, I went to business school and got a marketing degree. I spent a lot of time working on marketing projects and building marketing strategies and everything that has to do with marketing inside and out in terms of how to create visibility or brand awareness. But the brand itself is built around the leader, the person who builds it and what they stand for. So when you talk about your truck, right, it's like those intangible things. It's their purpose. It's the way that it makes you feel when you get in there. It's the connection that this brand has for you to the kind of person that you want to be. So when I think of like where to start, it's going to be a lot less about you as a company actually, and a lot more about your customer and then how you lead a customer and you lead your business to serve that client.
I love that. When I think of that question you asked me, and then as I really start to think of Rivian and their marketing and watching and kind of following as a fan, a lot of it is the connection with family and what I could do with my girls and the adventures we can go on with my family and my wife and being able to go to the lake or the ocean or wherever, the outdoor piece of connecting with nature. So I love that. And I've never thought about it from the flip side. A lot of times, even I fall victim to seeing it and I think, oh, the logo and, the typography and the colors of the website, but really trying to get that deeper connection to the customer is amazing.
Yeah, as you're talking and think about it. And I think this is what we do is we're trying so hard to create something for someone else. But really, it's about the way that they connect and they resonate so that they can trust us. Like every transaction is built on an exchange of trust. And I'll tell you, like when we have clients even come in to like prospective clients to work with us and we'll have a discovery call and I'll ask them, what's your mission? And they're like, hold on one sec, let me call somebody. Or they're like, pull up some piece of paper that's shoved in a drawer, like dusting it off, and they have no idea like what their mission is. And then I'll ask them, what's my mission? And they can rattle off my mission in 10 seconds.
Wow.
Why would somebody know my mission, but for their own? It's because they care about what I'm going to do for them. So if we can flip the script in terms of the brand that we're building to how am I going to enroll other people? How am I going to serve them and engage them in an experience where they want to transact, right? So ultimately pay me to solve a problem that they have. It's a complete mindset shift and it starts with who you are as a company inside.
Wow. As I think to just in my career, something that I uncovered just in selling to somebody is, of course, you want to build a friendship and you want to have a connection, but making people feel confident and comfortable in not just the product, but in me, because I'm my own brand, right? But then thinking of that, from a practice point of making patients feel confident and comfortable, how do you do that? It's not by the logo and the colors and the location, although those are nice things, but how do you make somebody feel confident and comfortable? So super insightful. That was amazing, Kaylee. So I want to talk about your brand and how are you growing your brand? What are some of the things that you're doing? I know that you mentioned the Pop Academy, and then we know that we have the new alt experience, but what are some of the ways or the new directions that you're taking your brand to impact the different businesses that you work with?
Everything that we've created has been built alongside of our customer. And I think when I mentioned your brand identity being so closely tied to leadership, I think a lot of people are probably glazing over that. Oh, okay, what is that? So I think going back to what does that mean for me? But Tyler, I think building a really great brand, most of us forget to think for ourselves about what it is that is important to us and what we stand for. And why I think great personal brands can do so well, because let's talk about med spas, right? As an example, or providers. They can build really effectively early on and quickly when it's just them, because they are them and their clients connect with them. Just be a great doctor, just build trust, right? You as a rep, right? If it's just you, you're going to walk in and you're going to connect with that client and build trust and rapport and help them feel confident about who they're investing in. But now you're a leader and you have a team. So when you become a business that needs to scale, that is where that inflection point of, I actually need to be able to verbalize and communicate what that brand is. And so I talk about thought leadership a lot. And a lot of the programs that we have built, our Pop Leadership Academy, our Voice of Impact, which is our public speaking communication program, our CAPL, which is our Certified Aesthetic Practice Leader program. We're building practice managers. All of this happens from having conversations with your customers and then building alongside of them. And I think investing in people who are in alignment with your core values, because if you think about it, you can be the best marketer in the world. I can attract 1 million people to come and want to do business with me. But if I don't have a team, an army of people who are going to fulfill on that, so exceptional customer service, right? We're white glove service, blue collar approach to work. I want every single customer, or you, Tyler, to interact with every team member that's on the KLC team and walk away feeling like you missed them when you left. I had an exceptional experience, and that's what really builds the brand. And so when you ask how have you built your brand, it's truly by living and being the brand and being an example. When I talk about leadership, a lot of people ask me how do I motivate my team, or how do I get people to think of my brand this way? Be that, embody that, actually show up and make decisions, even difficult decisions that might not be the sexy answer, that are reflective of your core values and who you are.
Wow, Kaylee, this is amazing. So I feel like you've already given so many pearls on branding, and it goes back to that spider web, that interconnectivity for it to be, from the inside out. So just to kind of dive a little deeper, how often should you check in on your brand? I mean, what would be a best practice?
Well, I think it's a practice of who you are, right? So I think building systems, my advice before you scaled to 5 locations was to be really clear about your mission, vision, values, and to have a team of people that you've hired to your core values. So we look at core values as the standards by which you operate and hire in your company. When you talk about 5 locations, the problem where maybe I have one core location, that my flagship, that just is a friggin' machine, right? And then I start to build these, and then I become so dependent on now operationally overseeing every single location to reflect the first one. Well, that's because typically we're hiring quickly to skills and not to the core values of what really built that flagship to what it is. So I'm not trying to avoid your question. I actually really believe deeply that this is the answer to branding, is that I'm asking from the very first point of hiring an employee, I know what my core values are, and I'm hiring to those. So for us, it's going all in. So are people willing to invest all in, full send with everything? Do they have a winning mindset? Do they embody somebody who is not so invested in a job, but invested and obsessed with the opportunity to grow with our company and the challenge of becoming somebody through that process? I'm looking for that. I'm looking for somebody who is willing, our second core value, willing to challenge themselves to grow. They like that. They're looking for ample growth and someone who's willing to have fun. If you're not like an A+ in all of those, I don't care how skilled you are at something. And so like we have this, Tyler, as an example, this great it's called the Culture Reset. It's a team training that we run for our academy clients. And so people will be like, okay, can you come and help us reset our culture? And I know automatically if you have a challenge with your culture, it's not because you have, you're not a great person, you haven't built a great brand. It's that people are coming with a set of values on their own. And so if they're not aligned with yours, then that is going to create a misaligned culture. So, answering your question about how often to check on the brand, I mean, it should become systematized. So there should be SOPs, the white glove experience. Every time a customer walks in, this is how they're greeted at the door. This is how they're offered this, cup of coffee or whatever, or the cookie when they check out, or the lavender towel, or those types of things that everybody is held accountable to having a smile on their face, to treating the customer a certain way. That's how you get to a point where somebody knows that they're consistently, every time they show up, and to Tyler's Med Spa, like they're going to get this level of consistently a certain level of experience or care there. So it happens from the very minute. And I think doing surveys and like checking in with your team and your customers is really important, like constantly.
I love what you're saying, going all in on your employees and your team and your brand. Something my wife and I are trying to be more minimalistic. And one of the things we've learned is if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. And I think the same thing as you're talking, I'm like, oh yeah, if this employee isn't a hell yes, it's a no. If this product, anything that I bring into my practice should be all in. So that was amazing, Kaylee. So I want to ask you this as an aspiring entrepreneur. How do you have balance in your life? And what are some of the habits, like daily habits, that you set in place to be successful?
Yeah, focus. I know where I do my best work, and I know what drives impact. And I do this religiously. I outsource, I delegate, I get help, and I am fiercely committed to developing people to become their best and absolute greatest potential so that they can build my company. And that for me has been the only way I can have, quote unquote balance. I'm not a PTA mom. No one wants me to be. I'm obsessed with my work and my company and my customers. And I also know that I when you look at my calendar, if I was to open up my calendar and you were to see it, you would say, I see. Like, my priorities are, there's time blocked. I don't get up in the morning and sit down right at my desk. I go get my workout done. I make breakfast for the kids and pack their lunches and spend time with them. And I start at 10. I am totally good with that. To me, the idea of building a business the American dream and the entrepreneurial journey, I've built a multi-million-dollar business independently as of coming from a sales job. I have a Cal State Dominguez, degree. I'm scrappy. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that are chasing this idea of becoming, whatever your financial sort of ultimate end game is. But I think a lot of people are chasing some carrot that they believe when they achieve it, they're going to then be happy. And yet you could just build a life right now in which you're happy today. And I think when you have that viewpoint, and my terminology is the life first business, that I make time for my lunches with my girlfriends, or my work, the things that I enjoy and make me happy. And then I work around that. And I built a business that supports my life and not the other way around. And so, for some reason, God willing, I have earned financially beyond my wildest dreams. But I don't think I would have done that if I wasn't a role model for other women that I'm coaching on how to do it. And so again, when we talk about branding, I will be that. And that's not been easy, but it's been a commitment that I've made to myself, and I will continue to make to my team and the people that work with me, and will ultimately be this company. And who knows where they'll take it someday. That nobody's here, no one has a gun to their head, and none of us do in this life. We all get to choose what we show up and do every single day. And so we have to be committed to prioritizing the things that matter to us. And whatever that is for you, that's your balance. And for some people, it is all work, and that's great. Do that. But for me, it's being a great mom, and it's like doing, different kinds of things in the world and the work that we do. And so, that my advice would be to put that filter on everything, Tyler. Is it a hell yes or a no? And to not waver from that.
I love it. So many things about what you just said. Life first, business. And it's really tapping into your superpower. I mean, I love that, you know that your superpower isn't a PTA mom. However, that is a superpower of some, and some people can do multiple things, right? But I love that you know your strengths and you're delegating. That's something I'm working on, is being better at delegating. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I believe, just doing some research, that people have a hard time hiring people that they might perceive as smarter or more talented than they are, and making sure that you have, great people in your room. But do you ever run into that? Do you ever run into some of your leaders having a hard time? I don't want to say being outshined, but hiring someone that might be smarter than them?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest fears that entrepreneurs in our industry have are, in terms of scaling, is as hiring. Look, any business, let's just be real. If I hire somebody who's so great, then they're going to leave, right? I could invest in them and train them and develop them. And then what? And then what about me? And I have worked through this myself. I think this is where coaching is really great. I think that when you look at leadership through the lens of the rocking chair when you're 80 years old and you're on your porch and you look back at your footprint and, what you created and made in the world, you aren't going to be proud of yourself for, oh, look at me, I look at how much money I made, or look at how, I don't know, like the vanity stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to be proud of the impact that you made in terms of the people that you touched. And people calling you someday and saying, wow, you really, you touched my life in this way. Like, I get people who will never spend $1 with me, but that listen to my podcast every single Monday morning, and they'll message me and say, I listened to that and I made this one decision that's changed my life. That was the one domino. Wow. And to me, like, that's why we get up and do what we do every single day. So I would challenge anybody who has that. And when you're facing people that are nervous about hiring somebody or developing or investing in them because they'll become greater, take that as an opportunity to become greater yourself and grow yourself. Because I think it is the gift that we have in this lifetime to develop and grow humans, and for them to excel beyond you, right? Like, who are you to tell somebody like they can't go and do greater things? I think that anybody who passes through my company and says, she invested in me and I learned and grew and I became a better person because of that, I'm going to look at that as the ultimate flex. Yeah. Not that I was smarter than somebody at that moment in time, Now, with that being said, I will say one of the mistakes that can be made is somebody that's like probably insecure about their own skills. So for example, a provider maybe who's like, I know nothing about managing people, and so I'm just going to hire somebody who can do that. And they haven't done the work because they're avoiding that on their own, like start learning how to dribble with the other hand, like learning a new skill, especially somebody who's like really, really great at what they do clinically. It is so scary to think about learning something they don't know. And they outsource it, and then they're in a spiral of challenge because now that's someone else running with leading the operation of their values and the things that are important to them. So I think I would say don't avoid hiring great people, but make sure that you're investing in yourself first. And then you won't have that insecurity about bringing great people in because you're really clear about what you're building.
Yeah. Wow. That's super insightful. Thank you, Kaylee. I want to really shift gears and tap into something that you have tapped into since I met you. And I know now you're all in on it. Feminine leadership, which really relates to so many different things. And our industry in aesthetics is, specifically med spas, is majority owned by females, which is amazing. And this resonates with me as a girl dad. I have 2 little girls. So seeing what you're doing for female leaders and women in general is super inspiring to me. And I'd love for you to share all about that, but also to shift gears a little bit into the alt experience.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I found myself, so I was on vacation with my family in Hawaii maybe 4 years ago or so. And I was on a walk with my husband and I was telling him just normal challenges of and conversation about growing my business. And I was saying how I have this big book, this portfolio of male plastic surgeon clients. And a lot of women will call me, but they're not willing to invest as quickly. And I feel like getting women I have to talk to my husband, or I'm not sure, I don't know the numbers, or let me talk to my accountant, right? Whereas, and this was my personal experience. So in somewhat generalizing, but also I think that the way that we're programmed, raised as boys versus girls a lot of times, right? In our households, you got to go and make a decision where, you as maybe your mom relied on your dad to make that decision, right? Or let me check with him first. And so that was modeling. And so I'm having that conversation and I'm like, that's a problem. And my husband just sat there. He just listens to me talk to myself basically. And he was like, what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, that's what the problem I need to solve. And so it was actually less about me trying to, I had already broken the glass ceiling in my mind. I believe, and I was raised by a Samoan American father that, he came from very humble beginnings. He had 1 pair of shoes with holes in them and ended up becoming a professional football player for the Rams through hard work and believing that you can achieve anything, right? I believe that wholeheartedly. But I think this whole thing where women have such a gift with the emotional intelligence side and building people. And you think about what a brand is, what building a team is, what building a brand is, what building a company is finding a way to incentivize, encourage other people to want to come and do business with you or invest in you for their own reasons. And I think as women, we naturally have that innate ability to do that. And yet we hold ourselves back because we lack the confidence or the imposter syndrome or those sort of intangible things that we need to work on to just go and achieve the most. And so I felt like I could be somebody because of what I'm doing every day and what I had done and through the lens that I had, who could help other women feel empowered and show up and invest in themselves in that kind of way. So that's to the first part of your question. The alt experience really came from a lot of what I felt like was missing in conferences in our industry, which you and I know as from the rep perspective, we've sat in a lot of exhibit halls, right?
Too many.
And I wanted to be a speaker so bad for my whole, career. And then I finally became one and I started giving talks and I kept getting asked to talk about, let's talk about the top 10, mistakes people make in hiring. And I was like, I want to talk about mindset and setting boundaries. And I want to talk about the things that actually impact us as female entrepreneurs. And as I became a speaker, but also just as, learning and taking sort of my own insights from what I'm hearing and as building my own business. And I felt like, well, shoot, everyone's already so successful. And I would constantly want to compare my chapter 1 to their chapter 5. But what is in the middle there? And what you and I know, Tyler, about, right, achieving success is that what really makes you successful isn't the things that people see on your Instagram, it's the failure that you overcome. And so I wanted to put an event together where women could come together. Every speaker that came was non-sponsored, non-endorsed. They came and they were asked to share their biggest story of failure and the lessons they learned along the way. And so it was really alt for alternative, or thought leadership advisory kind of flipped on its head. It was this way for women to come together and sort of let the guard down and talk about the mess ups and the things that nobody is sharing. And I think that it was pretty mind-blowing, honestly. I think that not only is our industry, but our society is ready for thought leaders who aren't just talking at you, regurgitating, mimicking, sharing, selling you, but that are opening up to you to tell you that, look, we all are human beings and we all go through these challenges, and here's how we can together overcome them.
Wow. Well, when you think of sports, usually when you go to practice and you're engaging in any type of coaching, you focus on the things that you could have done better, the things that went wrong, right? I love that you are actually talking about something different that's not on podium at every conference on repeat, which is fine. Like, they could do that. But the fact that you're talking about things that are hard, things that are challenging, and I bet almost everybody related and some stories intertwined, and, everybody had a Me Too moment. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. I think we're like a society that's built around optics and perception, and an industry that is, you have to be that, right? The aesthetic. And so it's nice, I think, to have permission to say, I'm not perfect. And you realize you're not alone. I think that's very comforting and, empowering and inspiring for somebody to look at someone else who's a human being too.
Yeah. Outside of that lens of social media, because like you said, it's easy to show our best outcomes and show all the cool things that we're doing and the conferences that we're going to, but to actually talk about what got us there. And you said comparing my chapter 1 versus their chapter 5, like, it was probably pretty mind-blowing, like you said, to hear all of the chapters that were shared and all of the correlations. So super cool. And this is the inaugural year, right? This was the first year of the alt experience.
Right.
First of many.
I think so.
Yes, that's super exciting. For those that are listening, we'll be sure to include a link in the show notes so that you can check out the alt experience along with Kaylee's podcast, The Fierce Factor, which is incredible. I honestly think you don't even have to be a part of the industry and listen to it, and you would find so much value, which is one of my favorite things about your podcast, Kaylee. So I just wanted to end with this. Where do you see our industry going? A lot of people are jumping in right now because it's hot and there's a lot of money in it and it's a sexy industry. Where do you see let's just say our next 5 years in this industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that question. So first of all, it's going to be a part of everything as it relates to aesthetics, is going to integrate into every kind of industry in a different way. You looked at back after 2020, how wellness kind of became on the scene. But I would look like from the bigger landscape of now AI, really, and now access to information. And we've got private equity coming in. We've got this fast-paced mission to capitalize on the growth financially, and people who are coming in to take advantage because of the money. And I think that the more that we move at this pace, the more commoditization we're going to have and the more homogenization we're going to see. And so when somebody's looking at like, how do I keep up, or how do I, continue to like evolve, and they're so focused on that, I really think that the practices who are really focused internally on serving their clients at the highest level are going to stand out. By that, I mean, the best brands are not built by keeping up with trends. They're built by setting trends. And so I think that staying focused internally and solving real problems that your customers have is going to be key to thriving and succeeding. Regenerative medicine, so tacking onto, right, wellness is like $1.5 trillion industry. And now we see aesthetic providers that are retailing everything from, right, there's hair restoration, we've got exosomes, and we've got stem cell and like real like regenerative medicine. I think that there's going to be huge advancements and very exciting advancements for us as like, I'm on this whole like hormone health wellness, journey, allergy, like things I never thought I would be like that girl in California. Like I'm kind of turning into that.
And now you are.
Now I'm her, right? That's why I say just never say never. So there's going to be a lot more conversation around health and wellness in the aesthetic industry for sure. And then I think like the technologies, like you look at ultrasound, and I think a lot of the shifts around like one, better understanding of like how to measure and track our bodies through the technology, better options for us, like non-invasively. And I think safety and ethics, like that's really where we need to continue to invest in supporting practitioners as they're keeping up with this quote unquote demand of patients coming in.
So something that's exciting is you're talking about AI and all the new products coming out and how wellness is colliding with aesthetics. What I think is most exciting is that practices have the ability to be one of the first to implement and adopt, to actually say in 20 years that you were an early adopter of AI. And I love one of my favorite things that you said that I just learned from is that the best brands don't keep up with trends, they actually set trends. And, actually one of my favorite songs is called Trendsetter. Be a trendsetter, be a trailblazer like you, Kaylee. And I just want to end with just saying thank you. You have been one of my favorite and best friends in this industry. And I feel super, super grateful to know you, to learn from you. You inspire me, as I'm sure, I know you inspire thousands of people. And I would love to have you back on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of you and everything that, you have done at TouchMD and what Nextech is building, too. So kudos to I'm excited to see your path and the company's path as well.
Thank you so much.
Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.